Good evening and greetings from Costa Rica. I hope you're doing well. Thank you very much for joining us for this Costa Rica live chat with Costa Rica Matt. And I'm not just insane, it is us. My assistant Danielle joins us from the virtual studio as well. Tonight, as is tradition with our long-running Wednesday night Costa Rica chats, since it's the last Wednesday of the month, what we're covering is a roundup of the questions that viewers just like you have submitted over the past month. So if you're watching and thinking, man, I wish that Costa Rica Matt would answer one of my questions, well, all you need to do is post that question in the comments of this video as we're live, or you can follow up again in the comments if you're watching this and it's not Wednesday night. My name is Matt Rosenstiel. As always, I'm broadcasting live from Playa Junquillal, about 35 minutes south of Playa Tamarindo, here on Costa Rica's Gold Coast. Tonight, we have an exciting lineup of questions that viewers have submitted over the past month. And as a huge bonus, we are also going to take a casual virtual tour through an enormous condo that we have for sale here in Playa Junquillal, listed for $240,000. It's a 1,700 total square foot condo. Now, as I mentioned in my last broadcast, that does include some patio space. Interior, though, this condo is still 1,450 square feet. And currently, to find anything on the market here in Costa Rica that's 2 beds and 2 baths for $240,000, that's also solid, spacious, and located close to the beach, is a very difficult search. So I'm excited to walk you through this particular condo. We'll sort of do a break from the questions whenever I need a break. To go over some of the topics we're going to cover tonight, I'm excited. Someone had asked about pickleball in Costa Rica. Someone else had asked whether or not you can drink the water here. Another guest asked, what about Caribbean projects and what sort of development is happening over there? Next, somebody had asked, what is stopping the real estate licensure legislation from making it through Congress here in Costa Rica? We had questions about eco-communities, gentrification, and finally, someone had asked how I can get in touch with Costa Rica Matt. I'll be happy to provide that information, not just at the end of this video when we're answering that question, but throughout. Again, my name is Matt Rosenstiel, broadcasting live. If you like up-to-date, relevant, friendly information about moving to Costa Rica, about the Costa Rica real estate market, or if you're just looking to spend your Wednesday nights with somebody who's sitting on YouTube instead of at home with their family, do be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button. It only takes you 2 seconds and it'll make me feel incrementally more self-important for the rest of my life. So again, this is our Wednesday night, May 25th, monthly question and answer roundup here on Costa Rica Matt. I do really appreciate you joining us. I wanted to mention, by virtue of the fact that they gave me a koozie, our sponsor for this evening is the Cryptid Hair Parlor. If you're in Minneapolis and looking for an exceptional hairdo, you should stop over by Lowry and Stimson and check out the Cryptid Hair Parlor. They're great people. They give away really cool koozies, and they're the official sponsor of tonight's episode of Costa Rica Chats with Costa Rica Matt. Before we get to our questions that you've submitted over the past month, we'll take a quick break to show that wonderful intro video. Thanks again for joining us, and stay tuned. Good evening. It's May 25th. Tonight, we'll be going over a monthly roundup of questions submitted by viewers, and you can submit your questions. I'll try to answer the live questions I get to. Before I do, I want to give a just quick, brief news update here. Of course, in May, and rather back in April, the country transitioned to a new government. Rodrigo Chavez took over as the president of Costa Rica. Now, he is a member of the Partido Progreso Social Democrático. I think that's the right name. And it was definitely a right-leaning party that took over the government from the PAC, which had 2 presidential terms prior to this year. One of the first things president did was announce that he would no longer be requiring the obligatory use of masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19. He also heavily relaxed vaccination requirements, essentially leaving it so that now the only people who will be obligated to get vaccinated in Costa Rica will be frontline health workers. Now, as is often the case in Costa Rica, immediately after making this decree, there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not it was actually going to get implemented, and things were definitely not as clear-cut. The presidency issued a statement a few days later, sort of walking back that they were fully removing the mask requirement. But on the ground here, what you're seeing now is largely a policy of, if you want to wear it, go ahead. If you don't, people are no longer forcing you, at least in the area of Costa Rica that I'm familiar with, which is a very narrow radius outside of my home here in Playa Junquial, up to Tamarindo and some more developed areas. But you're definitely seeing that those policies have been relaxed. Of course, we've also seen, just like the United States, increasing numbers of COVID cases. And in particular, right now, you're hearing more and more people being diagnosed with it in Guanacaste. Personally, I'm putting my mask back on just to not have that issue again, and to also be, going into stores and not making the clerks who are still wearing their masks feel like it's one-sided. But you're seeing very much now when you're in the supermarket that people with a mask on are not 100% of the people in the supermarket anymore. And there has certainly been a relaxation of the mask and vaccine culture. Another big news event, the Costa Rica tax ministry was hacked by ransomware cyber terrorists, the Grupo Conti, C-O-N-T-I. To be honest, I'm not fully up to date as to where we stand as of this Wednesday, but essentially these hackers took a lot of government data, locked it down, and encrypted it, and they're demanding a payment of $20 million to give back the encrypted keys that will allow the Costa Rica government to access this information. On the ground, it feels like things are pretty much the way they used to be in Costa Rica, because you can't get a lot of tax processes done efficiently. Right now, to pay your taxes, you have to go to a bank and deposit them into the Ministry of, the IRS's account. They've definitely had some issues with the National Registry, which mean that processes are delayed there. I do understand that the U.S. government is helping out Costa Rica a lot, that the FBI are involved, and that they're getting significant support from Uncle Sam. But it has definitely been an issue that doesn't help Costa Rica's efficiency. And for sure, it's a worrying trend everywhere in the world right now with ransomware. And the speculation is that, yes, there were Costa Rica government officials that helped these hackers get into the systems that they did. And of course, they're desperately trying to figure out who it was and try and put some of those people behind bars. Let's start with our May questions for 2022, submitted by viewers, again, just like you. So be sure to post your questions in the comment section. Our first question was about pickleball in Costa Rica and whether or not that is picking up. And to be honest, the limiting factor on pickleball here in Costa Rica is that there are simply not many tennis courts. In our rural area of Guanacaste, you see a few that are in gated communities. Tierra Pacifica next door has a tennis court, and we love to play pickleball over there. I played a video of that last week. You see tennis courts in places like Hacienda Pinilla, Reserva Conchal. Also, there is a tennis club in Tamarindo. But by and large, you do not see a huge number of neighborhoods with tennis courts. On the few tennis courts that exist, you're seeing the rapid adoption of pickleball. We had a hard time finding the paddles. There aren't huge suppliers, and it really seems to be sort of a niche item right now. We were able to find some secondhand paddles and balls from somebody who was leaving Tamarindo, and we are part of the ongoing trend of pickleball adoption here in Costa Rica. And like I said, it's really just limited by the fact that there aren't too many tennis courts to begin with. Second of all, a viewer asked, can you drink the water in Costa Rica? And I want to emphasize that one of the biggest differences between Costa Rica and the rest of Central and South America, or rather large parts of Central and South America, is the fact that yes, you can drink the water in the majority of the communities that a tourist would ever think of visiting. Straight from the tap, you're not going to have issues with coliforms or those huge problems that come with contaminants, largely because, at least in Guanacaste, our rural area here, all of the local water systems are based on deep underground wells, that are pulling water from a level in an aquifer, that wouldn't typically be affected by surface contamination. In our region, Guanacaste, this western province, every asada, every water distributor is using deep wells rather than surface catchments, some kind of tap into a stream or spring. And as a result, the water that we have here is super high quality. If anything, people drinking water in Costa Rica filter it because these asadas, the water distributors, do add chlorine to the mix. It's the way that they ensure 100% that people aren't going to get those stomach bugs from the water supply. You also see people filtering water because it has a high mineral content, and if you're prone to get kidney stones, Costa Rica would be a place that will add to that issue because of the high levels of calcium and other minerals in the water. But generally speaking, unless you're in some place that has recently had a problem with the tubes breaking or some weird circumstance that would affect water quality, you can drink it right from the tap without a problem. And believe me, I've been to countries where you can't do that, namely Nicaragua, and it's a huge drawback on your quality of life. You're constantly looking for a water bottle. You really don't feel like you can drink as much as you want to. And at the end of the day, you end up drinking all kinds of alternative beverages rather than water because it's not easy, available, and oftentimes it brings an extra piece of trash, etc. So yes, you can drink the water in Costa Rica. I am sure there are some absolutely remote, isolated towns where the water distributor, that asada, does have issues with water quality. But by and large, when you're in more developed communities, absolutely you can. I lived in a community where my host family had their own water system. It wasn't connected to the asada. And they had their well in a very, sort of questionable spot in a creek. It was also a surface water well instead of one of these deep underground wells. And even in that, it was a creek running through a cattle pasture, and this hole was only 15 feet or 15 meters, probably a little bit less deep. And even there, I never had issues with the water quality. And I think they were randomly adding some chlorine to the tank that the family owned. But definitely that would have been a more vulnerable spot than what the asadas are drawing from. Next, let's go on and talk about the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. Someone had asked what kinds of developments there are over there and what it looks like. And to be honest, the last time I was on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica was over a decade ago at this point. We went down to Puerto Viejo, down by Panama, which is probably one of the absolute top popular destinations for tourists. You also have Tortuguero up further north of Limon, and that's another really popular spot. But in general, it's important to understand that the Caribbean side of Costa Rica is far more raw, undeveloped, and generally speaking, not as expat intensive because several reasons. First of all, the nearest airport to the Caribbean side is the San Jose International Airport. It takes 4, maybe 5 hours to get to the Caribbean, and then from there you can go north or south. And so for a lot of foreigners, a lot of tourism development companies, all kinds of investors, simply put, that drive out to the coast is far less attractive than the Pacific. In the Pacific, they opened the Liberia International Airport in the early 2000s, and you can land there, and it's a 30-minute drive to Playas del Coco. It's an hour drive to dozens and dozens of beaches, and that airport located in Liberia has really changed the nature of the Pacific coast and made it absolutely this expat-friendly place with a lot of developments, eco or otherwise, and a huge number of options if you're looking to invest. The Caribbean side also doesn't attract people as much as the Pacific because you do get a far more intensive rainy season. And when people imagine Costa Rica, they probably imagine something more like the Caribbean, tons of banana plantations, rainforest, and during the rainy season, torrential moments where all of that is getting deluged by an enormous amount of water. Yes, on the Pacific side, we have those moments as well, and we do get a lot of rain, but especially in the northwestern part of Guanacaste, it's not nearly as intense as the rainy season in the Caribbean. And you don't have the risk of those hurricane-level storms where blowing through the Caribbean, you've got one of those multitude of tropical storms. Over here, we have never had a landfall hurricane in this part of the world. In the Caribbean, you don't get hurricanes hitting Costa Rica directly, but you see the effects with enormous amounts of rainfall as they blow up the Caribbean and head towards Mexico and the United States. So for those reasons, you see a lot less expat development over there. And honestly, if you're looking for a place that really feels like this rainforest tropical getaway that hasn't been spoiled or really contaminated, there are a lot of beautiful places in the Caribbean that might feel right to you. It may not be the best place to buy an Airbnb unit and hope that you're going to make easy returns. You're going to have a harder time renting it, but it might be the absolute perfect place to relocate. And obviously, it's neat in Costa Rica, we get two very different cultures, or, thousands of different cultures, but on the Caribbean, you see far greater influence from all kinds of Caribbean cultures, and quite honestly, the labor groups that were brought to take care of the banana plantations over time. You see Caribbean food offered jerk chicken. They have rice and beans instead of gallo pinto. They use a lot of coconut to flavor the food. And you definitely see that there are more, people over there that resemble Caribbean cultures just because, it's that side of the country. And yes, over the years, all kinds of fruit companies growing bananas over there were bringing in the cheapest labor available to work those banana plantations. On Guanacaste's side, you don't see that quite as directly. And out here, we definitely have a more mestizo culture, which is, Spanish mixed with the indigenous peoples rather than Black ancestral roots mixed with those same Spanish cultures. Didn't intend to go on that much about the Caribbean, but there it is in a couple minutes. Next, we had a great question. Someone asked, who is stopping the Costa Rica real estate legislation from being approved? Or rather, they asked, what interest group is stopping realtors from becoming licensed, from passing laws that actually regulate our profession? Because this is something I've talked a lot about on my channel. You don't have to have a license to practice real estate in Costa Rica. You have to be a permanent resident, not just an investor status. You have to register with the National Financial Oversight Ministry. Obviously, if you're a citizen, you're legally able to do this as well, but there's no licensure. Every year, two different organizations, the Costa Rica Global Association of Realtors, which I'm a member of, and the CCCBR, which is basically the same thing in Spanish, and they're based in San Jose. These two real estate associations try to promote legislation, draft it. They use boilerplate legislation from other countries where this has happened, and they propose it to Congress and try their best to get things through. And my answer to the question, who is stopping this from happening, really is just the fact, the way that the Costa Rica government works is stopping this from happening. The legislature here is not efficient. Every year, they only get a few significant laws passed, and frequently they're dealing with whatever crisis has come up in this new administration or with whatever scandal or hack, et cetera, and they're not a body that's able to do a huge volume of work passing laws on things like the regulation of realtors when they're doing other things like trying to get major highways built, trying to apply to international bodies for funding to get through COVID, trying to refinance, work with the debt that their health system is dealing with, on and on and on. The simple fact is, to get any law approved in Costa Rica, you have to have significant urgency for the legislature to be able to address it. You also obviously have to have significant interest from the members of the Costa Rican Congress as to getting it done. And even then, because of how things work with this legislature and pretty much everyone on earth, it's a long shot to actually get your good idea, that bill, into law, and it simply hasn't happened yet. Most recently, when CRGAR was meeting about this process specifically, they were waiting 100% until the new administration had taken power, which has now happened. And then you'll begin the process of trying to work with the administration and get this pushed through. But the phrase snowball's chance in HE double hockey stick comes to mind when you're trying to get a sensible, routine, administrative piece of legislation passed in a climate where the government is constantly dealing with far bigger issues and trying to keep themselves afloat and keep themselves popular in a huge socialist bureaucracy of a country. So that's the short answer on that. There's no particular interest group that says, no, 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 we don't want to regulate realtors. It's simply that getting legislation passed in Costa Rica is no cakewalk. We had another question that we'll come back to. The next one was what steps you should follow to buy property in Costa Rica. You might imagine that I've got a good amount to say about that, but we're going to try and keep it brief. I do, at this point, want to take a break and allow you to walk around a 1,700 square foot condo. This is a new listing I have at $240,000. It's two bedrooms, 2 bath, and it's one of few condos on the market under $250,000 that is this large and that is this close to the beach. We're going to take a tour of a lovely condo at Iguana Villas. I'm also going to take a little hydration break as well. This is an informal video that I literally just took walking around the condo and the complex, and definitely want to show you as a way to split things up a little bit, give some ideas out there for people who are looking for reasonably priced inventory. And I also just want to shamelessly promote a new listing. So here we go on our stroll through the Iguana Villas here outside of Playa Blanca, which is one of the beaches near Junquial. Here we're on the main floor. You can see the large open living space. They have plenty of room downstairs. You could even create another bedroom down here. Back on the back of the house, you've got an enormous patio. Here we're looking out towards that patio. And on the main level, you have a guest bedroom, a guest bath. Upstairs is the master suite. Here you're looking at the kitchen in this unit. Again, it's 1,450 square feet interior space. If you count the patios, there are 2 of them. It's 1,700 total square feet. Here we're headed up to the master bedroom. And upstairs, there's another patio that you can enjoy. This particular owner has a little roof so that they can sit in the shade on part of the patio, and the rest open so that you can enjoy the sun. Here's the master bathroom there to the right. I actually don't know if anybody can hear me at this juncture. I'm hoping you can. If you can't, no worries. Here we're looking out to the surroundings, the beautiful areas around the condo itself. I'm going to go ahead and quickly jump back downstairs. Here we are looking again at the main living space. Kitchen in one side. We'll go quickly into the guest bedroom and bathroom. This particular condo is sold as you see it for $240,000. And there you can see in the background the lovely common areas at the Iguana Villas. Importantly, this is only 400 yards walking distance from a white sand beach called Playa Blanca, which is a very apt name. And here you can see the lovely common areas at Iguana Villas. So anyhow, I don't know if anyone was able to hear me while we were taking that tour. That Iguana Villas condo, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, again, it measures 1,700 square feet total space, including the patios, which I've advised you to watch out for, and 1,450 square feet of interior space. Again, it's one of few condos on the market currently with an asking price under $250,000. They're asking $240,000, and it puts you just a few blocks away from one of our area's nicest white sand beaches, aptly named Playa Blanca, here in Playa Junquial and the community. Let's go on to another viewer question from this May. Someone had asked, what steps should you follow to buy property in Costa Rica? Now, I have a very in-depth video about every single step of the way, but I want to go over two that I need to repeatedly emphasize to people are the most important two steps of buying property here. Number one is to find the community, the location that works for you. And that means coming to Costa Rica and exploring the country as much as possible to actually find the location. The biggest mistake that I see people making is that they decide they want to move to a certain place in Costa Rica before they've even seen it. They come down to that area to look at property, and during either their first or second trip here, they decide to purchase real estate because that area sort of met their expectations. They felt good about it, and they just went for it. Costa Rica has a diverse array of climates. Things change dramatically from one time of year to the other, and you probably won't get a full picture of what a community is like during your first visit. I always say the exception to this rule is people who have lived all over the world and know this kind of tropical climate. They might know what it's like to be in a developing country, and they have the ability to be flexible on their location because they know they're going to enjoy Costa Rica no matter what. If you're starting to think, I might want to move to Costa Rica, don't go online and look at real estate listings. Don't contact realtors. Don't watch House Hunters International and all those bajillion-dollar perfect homes that they're selling. First, plan your trip down here and see where it is in Costa Rica that might be a good fit for you, and take a really close look at that location. Once you have found the location of your dreams, I love this community, I understand it, it meets my goals, and I really have a good sense of what the weather is like all year round, then your second step in buying Costa Rica real estate is to choose the team of professionals that are going to ensure you have a good, safe, secure purchase process. Yes, that means finding your realtor. No exceptions to that. I am promoting my own game and very much have a bias in this. But whereas in the US, a lot of people have now been able to buy without any kind of real estate agent involved because laws are so standard, home construction is standard, you really have the security of a lot of mechanisms in place that ensure your investment will go well. Here in Costa Rica, the only mechanism to ensure that you have a successful, happy investment process will be that you have a good team of professionals working for you. You find your realtor by examining the local community and finding out who has the best reputation and the most experience. And that realtor should be able to bring you a professional team, your lawyer, your topographer for the survey, your home inspector, your escrow agent to handle the money, on and on and on, your builder to handle repairs. Your realtor should be the gateway to a team of people who are all going to do the job to make your investment successful. So first, find your location. Second, find your realtor and find your team of professionals. And then you can go through all the other steps of purchasing a property that I cover at great lengths in other videos, one of which I spent 30 minutes going through the actual purchase process in Costa Rica, due diligence, deposit, escrow, on and on and on. I do talk about that a lot, but what I want people to focus on is first, finding that location, and second, being very, very deliberate and careful when you're looking for the team of people who is going to help you, and recognizing that really it is an important step in your purchase process to find those people. Again, don't start looking at listings and spamming people. Don't just go on the internet and hope for the best. Find someone with a long, long record of successful real estate transactions. Find somebody with experience in the community and somebody who can provide you answers to all of the questions that aren't just real estate, but really what it's like to live in Costa Rica and what you need to know about moving here. Number 6, last week I did an episode on eco communities versus greenwashing. And someone had asked specifically which eco communities are scams. At the end of my broadcast, I brought up pictures. I also referred to a couple communities where things are absolutely not what they seem, where you've got a developer who says, we're an eco community. And when you're on the ground, you realize the reality is this is an environmental disaster. And oftentimes you realize that the developers are not actually fulfilling their commitment. Unfortunately, I cannot identify a single community that I think is a real scam, simply because I could get myself sued for who knows what. But I do want to give you a quick look at how to figure out which communities are scams and which aren't. And quite frankly, it can be as easy as comparing what they're promising to their sales record as demonstrated when you actually press them for information on who's building homes there. There are a large number of communities here where developers are saying, we have 80 people that have already purchased. We've got road infrastructure. We're going to have a tennis club. We're going to have a pool, on and on and on. And you can identify a community here in Costa Rica that is a scam. First of all, when they're telling you that they've sold a huge amount of real estate and you go to the community and there aren't that many homes being built. There are lots of projects where they're really, really proud about their sales online and they're saying, oh, we only have 3 lots left. And then you go to the community and there's only 3 homes under construction out of hundreds of lots. That's a clear red flag. You can also identify communities that are really scamming you on that eco image by looking for any semblance of environmental protection when they actually develop things. And one of the particular things that I want people to look out for is erosion. You see developers that just cut roads up into the hills. They're calling it an eco community, and those roads are gullying out. You're seeing massive amounts of mud flow down the hill every time it rains. You're seeing the creeks fill up with sediment. And it's an easy way to tell that the developers have not at all come through on an eco community vision. And instead, they're just scamming you with that idea. So while I don't want to pick out any particular eco community that I think is a scam, I do think you can educate yourself to know what's a scam and know what isn't. A final red flag is if you're ever being pushed to purchase sight unseen, or even worse, if you're being pushed to purchase a property in a community without ever having been to Costa Rica. You are likely dealing with people who don't give a hoot about your best interests. And yes, it could very easily be a scam. You see these forceful sales pitches constantly. You know, we only have one ocean view lot and I can give it to you today at a 15% discount because tomorrow I'm going to get an offer on it. If you've never been to the development, don't believe a word coming out of that person's mouth or that they're writing in their email, etc. You need to get on the ground, verify what they're saying. And yes, there are communities where you might find there was only one lot left and I missed out on purchasing it because I waited until I visited the country. But the more and more that you get those sales warning signs, people who just say, oh, well, you can put $5,000 down, you can do, a quick reservation deposit, you can, just hold it and we'll get you down here and you can eventually buy it, but you need to act today. That's the clearest sign that what they're selling doesn't stand up to scrutiny. They want you to buy today because if you wait a week or you wait until you visited, you may not purchase. And their entire project's sales strategy is usually bombard a huge number of leads with good advertisements, find out who can be emotionally triggered to act on those sales advertisements, and then finally creating urgency around the fact that that person is about to miss out. And yes, you might miss out on something, and I'm sorry if you do, but a huge percentage of the horror stories, people who have been scammed by developers, start with that urgent sales pitch that people make. You have to buy today, or else tomorrow we won't have any lots left. I want to mention, it's entirely possible that not a single person has commented on the video so far. I recognize that perhaps no one even wanted to say hello, but on my end, I am not seeing a single user comment in the chat. If we've been getting questions, I will answer them at the end of the month next time, but currently I am not seeing live questions on the chat. And having requested them, if you are out there and asking me things, my apologies for not addressing it. Or if I don't have a single comment, that's great. I've answered everybody's needs so far. Question number 7 tonight that we want to round up. I had a user asking repeated questions. One was, does gentrification drive up property taxes, more or less? They also asked about how Costa Ricans feel about colonization and really wanted to know about the impact of foreigners buying these expensive properties here in Costa Rica and whether there's resentment, whether it's just driving people out, on and on. And I wanted to touch a bit on, first of all, gentrification and property taxes, which in Costa Rica is an entirely different process than in yuppie neighborhoods in urban areas of the United States. The Costa Rica government does not reappraise taxes on a regular basis, to say the least. You do not see a constant monitoring of property values and, updating taxes because of, new data and sales prices and everything going on. At the same time, the Costa Rica government has very protective policies that ensure that people with humble homes aren't going to be driven out of them by rising tax brackets. For example, even in coastal communities where Costa Ricans own their property and hold on to it despite development, they're still paying 0.25%, 1/4% of their property's registered value, unless they fall into a luxury category, and then we're talking about a completely different question to begin with. But this 1/4% tax bracket and the way that they assess the value of properties specifically protects Costa Rican families who don't have an enormous income and ensures that the lower class, lower middle class, and middle class can stay in their property, even though the house next door might have sold for double what their property's assessed at. Really, that to me, it's just one component of the question. This gentrification driving up taxes does not happen quickly. And to be honest, you see that in Costa Rica, most people are paying almost symbolic levels of property tax because you're obligated to update your own assessment every 5 years. Once you purchase a property, you establish the value there. You buy a condo at $240,000. It's 1,450 square feet interior. And for the first 5 years, you're going to pay 0.25% on that $240,000 condo. At the end of 5 years, you go to the municipality and submit a form in which you declare the value of your property again, and you do that every 5 years. This is not something that all of a sudden the local city passes new taxes. And the reason is the municipalities, our county governments here in Costa Rica, there are 82 or 83 counties currently in the country. The municipalities don't have rights to change the percentage that they're charging as taxes. It's set by the national government. They say that no matter what county you're in, for this property, you're going to pay that 0.25%. The national government sets the luxury tax, and they're very much in control of the tax structure, where in the US, you would see a city, county, state government start to add additional taxes on because, oh yeah, the suburb is exploding and property values are going crazy. Yes, next year the city is going to up their values and you're going to see that ripple effect through taxes. It's not the case here in Costa Rica, where property taxes are set by the national government and collected by the county government. This must be some especially foamy carrot juice tonight. My apologies. So it's not that never-ending cycle of different levels of government upping your taxes and promoting that gentrification. Next week, actually, I take that back. On June 8th, I'm going to have an episode called The Impact of Foreigners and really talk about more of the context. Are expats ruining Costa Rica? Are they making it too hard for locals to live here? How do they affect the surrounding community? Is it negative? Is it positive, etc.? I took that back because on June 1st, I actually have some earth-shattering news. And next Wednesday night, live Costa Rica chat will be dedicated to that news. And I promise it is truly, truly earth-shattering. You might not believe, just how it is. Daniel's telling me there are questions. I can't refresh YouTube. You've got to post questions in the private chat. If I refresh YouTube, my stream's going to go offline. So we do have questions. Daniel has now desperately signaled to me that he'll start posting them in the private chat in our streaming software. Let's quickly go up to our last question that we had over the month of May, which was, how can I get in touch with Costa Rica Matt? Currently, you can email me at matt@lat10realty.com. I say currently with a sneaky little sparkle in my eye, because if you ask me next week or the week after that, I might have a different email address to provide to you. There's a little teaser there, but currently and in the future, you will be able to get in touch with me at matt@lat10realty.com. Start out with an email. And one thing that's important to understand, I love helping people and I want to help as many as possible. But between having a family, our own brokerage, the number of clients that I'm currently working with, on and on, it's best if you contact me when you have identified the community you want to live in Costa Rica, and That community happens to fall somewhere within the range of Junquillal, where I live, to Potrero, an hour north of Tamarindo, which is the full extent of the coastline on which I can be helpful to you. If you're out there and you want to know about Costa Rica lifestyle, if you want to ask questions about taxes, on and on and on, great. I'll help you get with my videos. But in the meantime, right now, really, I need to focus on people who have decided that one of these communities in my range of the coastline is for them. You've been to Costa Rica and now you're looking at real estate specifically. You know this is the place for you and you want to say, okay, I need to evaluate condos specifically in this community. That's when you contact me by emailing matt@lat10realty.com. And you should also subscribe to my channel, not only to see the earth-shattering news next week, but to get any contact information that may be pertinent. Danielle has helped me out a huge amount. He's put some questions from the live chat here. Ooh, and we've got some big ones. Before I get to those, I do want to mention we're here live every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Costa Rica time, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll definitely keep this up for the year as long as I can humanly, possibly do it. And if I don't get to your question just right now, be sure to watch the live broadcast at the end of the month, and I'll be trying to get every question that's been submitted. One person had asked, and I didn't get to this question, Steve, one of my loyal viewers in California, really appreciate it. He had asked if you can rent cars in Tamarindo. Absolutely, you can. There's I can't remember exactly which car rental agency it is. It's not Avis, but another big agency does have their rental dealership right in the heart of Tamarindo. You can also rent golf carts while you're in the community. But generally speaking, right now in Costa Rica, if you want to rent a car, there's such a high demand that you need to start looking well in advance for the vehicle. And you'll likely have to book it near the airport, because near the airport, there are 6,000 cars, a huge amount of agencies and cars for rent. In Tamarindo, I think it's in Econo, or what's the name of the brand is escaping me right now. It's right downtown. And there is a rental agency there. You just might find that they never have any cars currently because of the huge, huge demand in Costa Rica right now. Submarine Canyon asked, are there zoning codes and laws in Costa Rica? I love that question because, yes, there are, very much so. You see all kinds of codes related to how you can use land, etc. But importantly, if a parcel of land in the country is on a public road, and if there isn't a specific zoning plan that applies bigger restrictions to it, you can essentially use it for any purpose. And the reason I mention this is that, it's really important to understand those zoning plans that I mentioned, the areas where the government has actually defined the commercial or residential purpose of property are by and large the exception to the rule. I don't know the percentages, but most of Costa Rica's national territory is not defined by any kind of zoning law outside of their general codes. And those general codes say that, if you have public road frontage, you can build up to 70% of the lot's area as construction footprint. And if you have that public road frontage, you can do pretty much whatever you want with it. It can be commercial, it could be residential. As long as it's not too close to the coast, you can go up. There's really the freedom to do what you want with road on that public road frontage. And that can be one of the chief benefits to buying in a gated community. You don't necessarily need the security of the gated community. You don't necessarily want to pay those HOA fees to have a pool and guards, etc. But in a gated community, you're on a private road. And on a private road, you're guaranteed that the lot next to you can't be used for a commercially permitted business. It can't be built with the same freedom that a lot with a public road frontage can be. And so if you're hoping that moving here you'll have very clear zoning laws, I suggest you look at gated communities where you know that the land next door to you has those restrictions of the gated community, the condominium, the HOA bylaws actually regulating what can happen next door. Because again, if you're on a public road and there's not a zoning plan, which actually there pretty much isn't, then you buy your property and in the years to come, it is up to fate what happens next door to you. Yeah, Ryan's Adventure Films, lots of fear of missing out, FOMO, with not being able to find their dream home in Costa Rica. There's plenty of land and development in CR. So, yeah, you're absolutely right in your point. FOMO, fear of missing out, might be the consumer's enemy when it comes to purchasing real estate in Costa Rica. And it's very much what those developers are playing on when they're saying you have to buy now or else we're going to get an offer on the last Ocean View lot tomorrow. Next, we're going on. Ooh, interesting. HKMKHANL. I'm not going to pronounce your YouTube username. Asks, I have seen many videos lately where young couples are buying properties with only putting a fraction of the asking price down in the down payment and the seller financing the rest. Is this normal for condos? That's very interesting because, to be honest, I have not seen a huge number of seller financing opportunities erupting all of a sudden in Costa Rica. You're getting here, obviously, this is a cash market for foreigners purchasing. And yes, when you've got people developing projects, the developers themselves are more prone to offer seller financing. But still, it's absolutely the exception to the rule. And if you see someone putting down a fraction of the asking price, usually that fraction has to be 1/3 to 1/2 of the asking price, at least, the closing price here in Guanacaste. Yes, I'm sure that there are big developments up and coming that say, yeah, we just want 10% down, or they're just trying to lock you into a sales program. Those big developers that are selling their own inventory, they have a lot more security in what they're doing than individual sellers. But I'd be interested to see, and if you post some links of different couples purchasing with a fraction down, I'd love to see where they're offering great seller financing terms, because that would sure as heck make it a lot easier for us to close some real estate deals. Going on here, let's see, we had the Foster Dojo. I met you maybe 2 years ago in a neighborhood area. I like what you're doing. Awesome. Thank you very much for your message. Not necessarily a question. You're looking to become a real estate broker. First and foremost, I would look at permanent residency here in Costa Rica. Then I would spend a lot of time studying the market and trying to work with people who have that background knowledge to get you up to speed. If you want to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to talk about that opportunity. But again, it is important to me that people here are doing business legally, and I want to conclude. I will answer the remaining questions we have in next month's roundup. They sort of came all at the end there, and I'm just now looking through them. But for tonight, I want to take a suggestion as well. Kevin King mentioned Imperial should be sponsoring. Perhaps they can be the sponsor of next week's episode. Again, I'll be here once again live on Wednesday night, June 1st, with what I promise to be absolutely earth-shattering news. For now, however, I've talked for an hour and 2 minutes. I'm nearing the end of my mental capacity to keep going. Thanks very much to the suggested sponsor. And before I sign off, again, I want to mention Cryptid Hair Parlor. If you're in Minneapolis, they're the best people to see for sure. Ask for Anya, and she will give you actually, she didn't do this haircut, but she can give you something way better than my haircut. Really appreciate everybody joining me tonight. As always, do be sure to hit subscribe and that notification button. I appreciate and love you all. Salud, have a good night, and until next time.